So Coté, I have a question and then a follow-up question. Just, I know you
I'll
tend
keep
to
that
have
in mind with my length
long
of answer.
answers, right? So what are some ways that you use AI in your day-to-day life that you don't even think about anymore? It's just super commonplace.
I have a window where I have a project set up that I call like tech support. And whenever I want to look up how to do something in an app, I ask it there instead of Googling for it.
So is it a Google replacement more commonly on other things too, or just for that particular use case, which is a strange use case to me, honestly, because tech support knowledge can get old.
Yeah,
and then AI becomes bad at it.
Well. To answer your questions and to comment on your whatever, to go in reverse. Yes, it is. It's not perfect because it's one of the few places, well, that I know of where the hallucinating actually happens. Like, for example, I started using Obsidian again, which I feel like is someone saying they fell off the wagon and they're no longer in the program. But like, so I ask it how to do all these things. Obsidian's a plugin heavy ecosystem, and it's recommended many plugins that just don't exist. And they sound like they'd be awesome, but they don't actually exist, which is a bummer. And as far as other, I ask it about recipes a lot. In fact, I'm going to make up a number, but I would probably say 85 to 95% of the time I get my recipes from ChatGPT now. Like, I don't even go look at the internet.
So the recipe use case makes sense because there's so much extra language. Like if you go to a recipe website before you actually get to the recipe, the tech use case surprises me, honestly. But that leads me to my second question, which is to like go back in time and think about the first time you touched AI or Gen AI, like ChatGPT. Like, what were your first impressions? And could you have possibly guessed that the culmination would be recipes?
I think, well, I'll answer your question, in a different way than ask and then actually do it. I don't know why people say they're going to do that. They've read too much about how media questions work. But I think the first time I used it was when DALL-E came out. I mean, I guess like everyone, I used that thing where it was like, figure out which Renaissance painting you look like. Remember that like 4 years ago? I mean, that was like a basic AI thing. But then like DALL-E came out, and then there was a desktop version of that called B. I forget what it was called. And I used that a lot. And I remember I got obsessed with making Bruegel paintings and then also like used bookstore interiors. I don't know why, but that was like, I look back on these files and I have like 300 pictures of used bookstore interiors from the 70s. Like it's just like, and then after that, like I used Midjourney a lot, which was, a couple years ago. I mean, it still looks like this, but it was just like the worst of like tropes and everything from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, so, and yet it was magical. And then, so the first time I really used like ChatGPT was, I have this talk about playing D&D with ChatGPT, and so it was like, I want to say 2.5 years ago now. I have the date somewhere, but that's when I first used it and like really started to use it. And yeah, it was amazing. Like it was really fantastic. And would I have thought I would? I at the time I wouldn't have thought about using it for recipes and everyday tasks. I probably would have been like you with the tech support. I'd be like, no, Google's fine. Like, I'm just going to go there and use it. Like, I need some kind of creative, like big text experience to use it, not just like everyday factotum types of things.
You wouldn't have guessed how mundane it would kind of become.
And then that's the third thing to answer, and then I'll stop myself. But like, I use it to look up words all the time. Like, what does this mean? And like that, it's pretty good at that kind of stuff.
The first time I used ChatGPT, I was super duper creeped out and put it right back on the shelf. And it's just like, nope.
You're like, not for me.
But then later, once I did get obsessed with it and really, really into it, then it's just so dumb. It's not very scary once you know it well enough that it's like, you're just, such a stupid thing and so smart at the same time. It's but Hannah, tell us your first impressions. Well, actually, let's do the same 2-part question. Actually, let's make a third part where A, you introduce yourself and say who you are and why we care what you have to say at all. B, you see how you use it today in your daily life, and C, what were your first impressions?
Awesome. So who am I? I'm Hannah. I am a bit of an AI explorer at the moment. So my background is in cloud native platform engineering and DevOps for a long time. But over the past year, I've hopped on the AI roller coaster a little bit. So I've built a community and a conference called AI for the Rest of Us in London, and that focuses on AI fluency. And I've also accidentally become an AI consultant along the way, because apparently with a tech and a security background with a bit of AI fluency, you can be incredibly useful to a lot of people. So that maybe leads me quite nicely on to talk about how I use AI today, because I use it to pair with me when I don't know what to do, which happens all the time at the moment. People come knock on my door and say, like, Hannah, can you help me with this? And it might be content marketing, or it might be branding, or tone of voice or product strategy, or loads of things that I'm like, you know who I am, yeah? Like, yeah. I've not done that thing before. Are you sure you want me? Like, and it's a bonkers situation. But like, a lot of people have said yes, we do. And so what I do in those situations where I'm like, okay, I think I know the direction that we need to head in, I kind of use these tools to validate me, and to add to it. So I was like, the other week I was like, okay, we're going to run a workshop today about brand identity, tone of voice, and things like that. What are the things that I should be doing in this workshop? And so you sort of do the role play thing. It's like you give your tool. I was using Claude for this one. You give it a role to play. It's like, okay, well, you are a senior consultant at a kick-ass branding agency. You're meeting a new client for the first time. What's the information you're going to try and gather from them, and what are the outputs that and assets you're going to create as part of that? And so I use it as my guide a little bit. And maybe I am just being like a really generic like branding consultant, but I'm a branding consultant who could speak the language of cloud native and AI in a credible way. And so that becomes a useful thing. And so I do lean on these tools a lot to kind of augment my skill sets. Like, I have these things, and I don't have these things. And where maybe I would used to have been on social media, or like going to my network and being like, help. I've done that a lot in the past. I'm like, help me, somebody. Like my first port of call is now one of these tools to see how far I can get independently, which is really fun. And it gives you a lot more confidence going into the unknown, which is what this last year has been all about for me anyway.
I relate a lot to what you're saying, where it's emboldened me to be an expert in areas that I don't necessarily feel like an expert, but I'll talk to it enough to get a baseline, and then I can figure out more beyond that. And then I never say a fact that I can't find in the documentation. So once I'm speaking factually about something that's slightly over the edge of what I know, I'm like, okay, I need real verification of technical documentation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it's your credibility. It's not like anyone's going to be like, oh, don't worry. Like, yeah, that's.
But how do you find the line of? How do you know it's not leading you astray? How do you feel confident when you're using AI to help you in areas that you're not familiar with, that you're giving the right information to others?
it's about the outcome, not the path to get there, isn't it? And so if we're successful, if we're successful together, like, because a lot of the work that I'm doing is more creative, so there's no definitive right answer. Whereas in your world, there is maybe a definitive technical right answer or a best practice that you can draw from, and so then you're more likely to measure the impact of where you got to, rather than the way in which you got there.
Can you remember the first moment you touched AI and what you felt or did?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah. So there were two. It was in my personal life. There were two things that I used it for, which I was amazed by at first, and now have become just normal habits. So the first one was planning some travel, and so I told it I want to go to France for a month. I like food and drink. I don't drive. I'm going to need to get everywhere on public transport, and I want to go to less traditional sort of tourist destinations where I can do hiking in the day, and then consume lots of wine and cheese in the evening. And so it was like, it plotted me this month around France, and I took many of its suggestions, and I wouldn't have been to those places otherwise. And I just thought that was brilliant. I thought that was brilliant, and I've used it for travel planning ever since, because I think, similar to you, Coté, it's like you can't get that same customization from a Google search. It's like, I'm looking very specifically for 1 month in France, these criteria, because you'll get served ads, or you'll get served some generic blog post written by someone who's not got the same needs as you. So yes,
and you know, like that's a recent thing that I guess I do a lot, but since it's recent, I haven't. Whatever, I'm doing it a lot more now. To put it to, I don't know why I care so much about correctly phrasing this, but I made like a little project for travel stuff, and you know, I told it like, here's me and what I like and all that, and it's like amazing. It's just like, well, if you're going to be in like Ipswich and these are the things you like, you should go check out this place. It's pretty good at exactly that kind of filtering and tuning to what you want, much more so than
exactly.
I think it's also notable, like, you know, when you and I are saying travel planning, we definitely don't mean like booking flights for me, like all that nonsense. It's more, well, I assume you don't, but it's more just like, when I get there, like, what do I do? Yeah. Like, you don't, all that number one use case of AI for booking travel is just like, I don't think anyone wants that. Like,
no, honestly, it's like, that's not the, like, hitting the button, like, to actually book the travel, book the flights or the trains or whatever. That's the easy bit, you know. With one of my friends recently, we've been planning a holiday for our 40th birthdays, because I'm 40 this year. Isn't that terrifying? But yeah, and it took like many months of discussion, research, and the actual like click a button. That's like a 10-minute job. So it's the research, like, aid and inspiration as well. That's really cool.
And so that leads me to, how did you decide to make a conference around AI? Like,
it was one of those moments where I was like, this thing should exist. And I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find a conference that was pitching itself as a place where you can learn how to speak the language of AI. There were conferences that really catered for the technical and the academic side of the subject. Very, very dense in like the vocabulary of the technology, very dense in linear algebra and the complexity of it. And I was like, well, it was selfish. It was like, that's not what I needed. At the time I was in product, and I was like, that's not what I need. Like, I need to know what the technology can do for me, what it can solve. And I also need to be able to have a conversation about AI at work and be credible. Like, I want to make sense when I talk about AI. And so there were these very sort of like like academic sort of events, and there were these always you can trust that there's an enterprise transformation event in any domain. Great, lovely. Not all of us want to sit around talking about AI enterprise transformation either, because this impacts every aspect of our lives, and not everyone's building for enterprise. So yeah, I called it AI for the rest of us because I really wanted to be as inclusive as possible, and to curate a sort of learning journey where you can come in at any level, and you can still learn something fundamental about the concepts of AI that you can take back into your personal or your professional life. So yeah, it was really just that. I wasn't working that summer. I was taking a career break, trying to de-stress myself, and everyone laughs that I decided to run a conference single-handed as a way to chill. But honestly, like, that's just me. Like, it's fascinating what you choose to do when you can choose to do anything. And so I went and traveled around France for a month, and I cooked up this plan that I wanted to build an AI conference, an AI community that focused on fluency without all of the sort of barriers of all the technical jargon. And that sort of cut through all of the hype as well, because there's a million people who will want to sell you some solution. And that's not helpful to me, because I want to know how to use it. I want to know what impact it can have. I don't want you to sell me your thing.
I relate so much to what you did and how you felt. I remember it was a KubeCon keynote, I think Paris, so about a year and a half ago, where it was like the KubeCon before, 6 months earlier. That was no mention of AI. And then 6 months later, literally every keynote was about AI. And I hadn't been paying attention to the space. So I went from feeling like fluent in cloud native everything to I have no idea what's going on. And nobody here, even at the keynote level,
have felt that at different stages. And I had that feeling. And I was like, oh, this is not a small blind spot. This is a massive blind spot that I've got in terms of like my technical knowledge. And so I set about sort of filling the gap, but taking as many people with me as possible.
But here's the next question. So that was all about a year ago, right? Your first AI for the rest of us was last summer. Yes, yeah. Is that correct? So now we've all been swimming in Gen AI for a year. Do you still feel that there are people with the massive blind spot, or how does the conference itself change now that we know the basics?
I think, that's a really good question. So I've debated this with myself about whether or not we needed space in the agenda to go over some of the basics, like what do we mean when we say LLM and things like that. We've started the conference at a slightly different level to last year, and it's really focused on what AI is doing today. Like, I wanted the conversation to be grounded in reality about how AI is having an impact. So focusing on real world stories rather than theory. So there were some the CFP was really difficult. There were some fabulous speakers who submitted, but it was all theoretical and it wasn't grounded in the experience of building. And I wanted this year to be really grounded in the experience of doing and building, from people who actually doing stuff, not talking about stuff, to be quite frank with you. And so it's slightly different. I mean, I could have had 100 talks about AI agents. I could have done, because everyone wants to talk about it. So there's a very specific sort of curated track of talks about agents, covering everything from like what it is, to how they work, when to use them, and then securing them. Like, so there's a nice learning journey about agents, but that's what I went for. I didn't go for a solid 2-day agenda all about agents, because I don't think that's what people want. Certainly people want to talk about it, but I don't think anyone wants to sit and listen to that.
If I remember, so both Whitney and I are speaking there, which is very nice of very nice of you to have us. But if I remember, I had to agree to a code of conduct that was basically like, this is a reminder, don't be very technical. Like, and I was thinking, like, usually the code of conduct is like, make sure to wear pants and don't be an asshole. But like, But like this is like
no, it was two separate questions, but like the values of the conference is that anybody should be able to listen to the content and understand it. And so if you walk on stage and you go like, okay, so I plugged in MCP to this, something like, like take a step back and actually take people with you and be like, okay, so this is what an agent is. And like when agents use tools, they like, it's common that we use a certain protocol. And like, this is, it's maybe an implementation detail for this talk, but that's what this is. Just really, I do truly believe that anybody can understand this stuff if somebody takes the time to explain it in simple language. None of this is magic. And I think, the topic is made more difficult to navigate by all of the jargon and acronyms. So,
and so much is happening in every point of the stack. Like so much is happening in the model itself and fine tuning the model and like vector databases and storing and be able to access information in the agentic level and the tool calling or MCP server level. Like it is overwhelming. And even if you have an idea, it's kind of hard to know like, okay, which point in the stack do I want to use to manipulate to be able to see out my vision that involves AI.
I think you just violated the code of conduct there. I have a couple of like annoying hobby horse topics. One of them is like how you arrange your Tupperware and things like that. But another one, because your conference makes me think of this so much, is like I mean this in a good way to preface all of this, is like the AI for the rest of us feels to me it's a very like English tech scene conference, right? Like and like that's like there's been other conferences over the past 2 decades. Like I think the most English of all conferences that I know of is like Russell Davies' Interesting Conference or something. I've never been to it. And then there was like you remember that old podcast Shift Run Stop? Like those people were kind of in this area, whatever. And like so it's making me think that like a lot of the conferences I think about that are more like English, British, whatever, UK-ish than American, they're like user-focused conferences. I don't really know how to characterize it, but there's something different about it than like if you were
not like some of the big conferences where we cross paths. Like they're more trade shows, and I think you go to a trade show style conference to learn about products, don't you? You go to like a QCon or something like that. It's very, very vendor heavy. They want to show you what they're selling, and if you go there with the intent of learning what they're selling, really. And if you go there for like a sort of deep dive hands-on workshop, you're going to be disappointed. Like it's not that sort of conference. So yeah, I think I really try to balance the educational part of it with the community, like because it's not always about what you listen to and what you learn on the stage. It's about who you meet and who you connect with as humans. And I think DevOps Days is obviously I'm involved in DevOps Days London. We have talks, but the thing that people always remember is the open spaces where they spoke to each other afterwards. And so trying to curate an event that has enough content to inspire and attract people, but then the main event is the people who show up. It's the community. So, and making sure people have a bloody good time. Like,
yeah.
This isn't one of those boring enterprise transformation events where everyone's very serious. It's absolutely not that. We've got a mascot that's an AI generated fluffy blue monster that's like projected on all the digital screens, dancing around the sponsor logos. It's supposed to be like an unintimidating environment to learn about quite an intimidating technology.
So what's something, like you said, you've been involved in DevOps Days a lot. Like what's something that you really want to do to the DevOps Days format that like no one else wants to do, that they never like let you do?
Oh, what DevOps Days? I mean, DevOps Days has been very rigid in the format for many years. I think with London specifically, it was like it's always quite challenging to get that many people. So we were about 500, 600 people at our maximum to participate actively in open spaces. And so controversially, you know, we floated the idea in our organizing committee of making it very intentionally very small, and making not as in a way of making it exclusive, but as a way of bringing back that participation that the early DevOps days had. Like everyone went there and they met and they talked. And I think in a room with an open space, so for any listeners who haven't been to an open space, you sort of pick a topic and you gather in a room, and then you just talk about it for like 45 minutes or like half an hour, and it's a great way to learn from each other. And that doesn't really work if you get to like 50 or 60 people per room, or like 100 people per, like, you know, you get these very big rooms and you get a small number of people dominating the conversation. So that would be my most controversial thing. I'd be like, back to grassroots, make it small again. And I would love to do an unconference with AI for the rest of us as well. I almost did one this spring and didn't quite pull it off, but maybe next spring.
What's stopping you from having an unconference part of AI for the rest of us?
Space. So
Okay.
for an unconference, it's really useful to have each like breakout be in its own room. And so when you're looking at venues, so at the moment, the venue that I've got has 3 rooms, and they're very large rooms, and that's quite common as like a conference venue sort of standard. You'd have to look at other venues if you wanted multiple small rooms with small groups running concurrently. It's
so
not impossible.
is the I mean, speaking of venues, is the QE2, is that a good conference venue? What do you think of it?
So we have loved, like DevOps Days, we have loved having our residency at QE2. The position in Westminster, the views over like Westminster Abbey, Big Ben, and the Houses of Parliament, like, it's a spectacular venue. And also they get the tech right. We went to another venue one year, and the AV was terrible. I just don't think you can run a tech conference at a venue that doesn't take care of their tech. That's just me. So yes, we would have stayed at the QE2 if they hadn't hiked up their prices. And so we've moved away from that this year, and we're at Imperial College London, which will be really nice. I used to work at Imperial College when I was at university across town at UCL. I actually worked there managing their conferences at the weekend. So it's all come full circle.
A nice reflection point.
Yeah.
I want to hear about your job as a consultant. What are companies asking your opinion on, or what are they working on in the AI space, or what are they trying to figure out?
So for the most part, I think it's because I took on this sort of project to build community around AI in London. A lot of folks come to me looking for guidance on how to engage communities, and so like startups will come to me and they'll ask, like, you know, how can I reach all of these people with my product and still be authentic about it. Recently we launched a new product, a company called Leapter, and we actually did that in Germany. That's where the founders are based. So we did that alongside VR developers in Berlin, and that was fabulous. That was awesome, because it's really hard as a startup to know what people will care about and like how much to tell before you even have a product to sell them. And it's like, well, you can't really.
Well, so
forever.
Where is AI in that story? Is the product an AI-based product?
Yes. But for the most part, I'm working with AI startups who are in the enterprise and security space.
Okay. So almost how to market AI more than how to use AI for something.
No. I'm not teaching people how to use AI. Absolutely, that's not my job.
I think in your ChatGPT use case, you talk about how you accomplish this work, but you don't. Unless I'm totally wrong, you don't have a marketing background.
No.
Like, so how did you get into that? Because that's
people just asked me, and I said yes. And then
they were just like, we know you, and you know how computers work. Come help us sell stuff.
You two know me. I'm a terrible yes person. And I love to learn. There's nothing better to me than a blank canvas and a challenge. And so And so, yeah, it's a lot of people, like, honestly, it's a lot of people who know me by reputation. And so it's not people like coming in cold. It's folks who are like, do you think you could help us with this? Having worked with me before. The folks from Leap to worked with us at Pivotal. So,
And so, do you think being involved in conferences helped out with that a lot too, to like raise your profile and fame? Or do the people who hire you for this, they're like, they don't know anything about your conference life? Like,
no, I think people, there is, I always say to folks, I think the first time I stood up on stage and spoke at a conference, it was like a watershed moment in my life, because it was really scary. But it did change the course of my career. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have met the people that I met, and I wouldn't be doing the things that I was doing. I've always been very community focused, but it did take a little while for me to step forward and be like a leader or an organizer of a community. And when you do that, like you get so much visibility. And with that become like you build your reputation and your credibility. And I think those are priceless. I mean, it's time consuming, but it's wonderful.
Back to consulting. I'm just really interested where companies are at with AI. And so my question is there something you see, what are you coming in and helping them with? What are they doing maybe wrong or just completely clueless about that you're shaping?
So, for better or worse, a lot of folks are very engineering centric. And I think you do need to be awesome at building if you want to build a startup. But if you build something awesome and then you don't tell the world that it exists, you're not going to succeed. And so I think one of the things that I always say I do is I sort of bring like that sort of fearless mentality. It's like, yeah, we're gonna tell the world about it. And we're going to see what they say. We're going to see what they say. And if they don't say anything, even then we've learned something. We're saying the wrong thing to the wrong people. And I always I think I always undervalued marketing until I had to do it myself. But the right message to the right people at the right time, when it works, it's like magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of people think it's like... marketing is like a dark art, but it does come down to just the right message to the right people at the right time. And if you are genuinely solving folks' problems, then it's a win-win. You don't have to sell your kind of offering if you're offering something valuable to someone who needs it.
What part of the Gen AI space do you think is still confusing for people? Or maybe it's still confusing for you? I know it's confusing for me. And that's vectors versus embeddings. I can't keep it straight. Yeah.
I'm not at that level.
Okay.
Level. I think the biggest misconception in the Gen AI conversation right now is that agents are going to take your job. Because I'm like... I have many jobs at the moment. I wear many hats. One of my jobs is building teams of AI agents to do complex process automation for highly regulated industries. Loving that. And honestly, that's the fun hands-on bit of what I do. That's got nothing to do with marketing, and that's got nothing to do with content or community or anything. That was me going, I want to see this work in the real world. I want to get involved. I have to know what the boundaries of this technology is today. There's absolutely no way an agent's going to take your job. Absolutely no way. And I think the folks who are selling that story into poor executive teams and CEOs who are thinking, oh, I could save so much money. There's going to be a huge bubble burst here. It's just quite simply not going to happen.
Tell me why. Why is it? Why are you so confident that it's not going to happen? I'm not disagreeing, but I want to hear.
No. So I think the way that I have found that agents work best is almost in like a deterministic way. So if I give them like a process to follow, and I go, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, this is step 4, and I constrain them enough that they can execute those reliably, then that's a fantastic automation tool. But that is a single task that you've automated. And I don't know many humans who go to work and they have a single task on their on their to-do list. So I can see that agents are going to be absolutely wonderful at taking away a lot of the mundane, repetitive work.
Toil.
And that will alleviate us humans to do the complicated problem solving. It will help us to make better decisions. We'll always have to deal with the edge cases or the novel. But the idea that a human in their entirety is going to be replaced by an agent, I think it's honestly, that's where my head's at right now from playing with the technology. I just don't see it.
Yeah, similar to what I said up top. Like the more I use it, the more I don't think it's replacing anyone.
But it's interesting is how we build with it as well, because some of the most interesting sort of value propositions for agents are actually not agents at all. It's when they're invisible and they've done something of value for you, and you haven't had to do anything at all. You haven't had to write in a chat window. You haven't had to. It's when they just do things and it's all invisible. And it's like here's the input, here's the outputs, and somehow somewhere along those lines, an agent got involved, but it doesn't matter. It's an implementation detail.
You know, one sort of a related thing is, do you like? To this point, I find it difficult. There's a dearth of like, here's just easy to understand enterprise AI use cases, right? Like every time Google or someone has a conference, there's like, here's 200 uses for AI. And it's always like, we changed the color on a picture, or like a customer service agent now knows the sentiment of someone they're like, which is great, but it's not like, we completely changed how the supply chain for this auto manufacturer works by analyzing over a 3-month time period, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yes,
and then
that's
the other most boring in a good way case is like, I don't know, we looked over a bunch of procurement contracts. Right. So it's basically like better search, maybe like the semantic web that we wanted so long ago. But like, maybe that's because it's kind of just automation, like it seems like a very like just a higher level, an advanced form of automation. But then you brought up another thing that you were alluding to, which is sort of like, but then sometimes it builds things, right? And like I don't know, like the sense I've been getting recently, not sense, but what I've been thinking recently is like, yeah, you're just like automating stuff, which is fine. It's just like a lot better tools, in the same way that like, in the early days of DevOps, like that was great, but it was just automation. Everyone freaked out about the same things then too. But I mean, do you think there's like work use cases that are beyond automating things?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, at conferences, I tell the story of when Pivotal was acquired by VMware, and absolutely all of our operations ground to a halt. We could not, we had to produce contracts for our customers about the work that we were delivering for them. And we couldn't produce a contract for a customer for many, many months because of the complexity that existed in the back office processes. And it was a source of frustration for everyone involved. Sales teams couldn't sell. Like the pressure was on my team to produce the contract. We were working with an ops team that backed into another ops team that backed into a legal team, backed into a finance team, and none of them knew what to do with us at that moment. And there was obviously a kind of business continuity ball that was dropped somewhere along the line, but it shone a light on the complexity of these of large organizations and the operational overhead, which is currently just made happen by humans. And I always reflect on that. I'm just like, all of these handoffs to do a single piece of work, which was completely standard. There was nothing non-standard about it. And I think there are a lot of people pushing a lot of paper around in big organizations that need not be.
Right.
And the standard requests, which are unexceptional, they should be able to like get handled and transferred around the organization. And when we think about flow, like we often think about the flow of value to our end users, don't we? Like when we talk about team topologies and stuff, like the value streams. And I think there are flows that exist in that other sphere that don't directly impact our end users or our customers, but are necessary. And I can think agents being incredibly useful in that domain. Business operations.
That's a good example of like a workflow. Like an internal operation that you have to go. I mean, that's a great example. And I could see that if you represented each of those little things as an agent, which is to say like a little chunk of code that you could fit with other chunks of code that coordinate with each other in magic agent land.
Yes. Yeah. And when I think about this as a problem, because I think that back in the days of DevOps, in our silos, it was like, how do we create this like joined up collaborative world where like we've torn down the silos and we are aligned. And there was a bonkers time where like everyone was beating the drum, like no ops. We should not have a separate ops team anymore. And it evolved, like org design evolved with the new technologies and the new demands of the technologies, because it was all happening while like sort of companies were going through digital transformation and mobile transformation, and consumers were expecting more from the technology teams of these organizations. So I think there is like a transformation to be done there. If we want to give this work to agents, and it's an if, you don't have to, but if we want to, then there are organizational boundaries that we need to navigate. If you optimize in your silo, you're just going to move the problem somewhere else. It's like one team's throughput's going to go through the roof, and it's all going to stack up somewhere else.
So maybe there's a heuristic, to use an old Pivotal term, a find the app play, where you identify, you say what's a thing that you do around work here, a process that like takes a lot of months, and you're always waiting for some meeting to happen and someone to approve it, right? And that kind of gets you a first cluster of the apps. And then the next one, like you just added, I think is probably another good one, is like, and then that has to cross a bunch of different organizations or silos. And like probably in there is at least one good app that you could apply like an agentic AI thing to, that would be relative, just like a find the app exercise, that would be relatively quick and also meaningful or show business value once you had accomplished it.
Yes, absolutely. I think the type of work that's good for agents is also where there's a lot of necessary domain knowledge. Like, so if you find yourself in a place where a single human is like the bottleneck, like only so-and-so can do this job, then actually going through the process of getting that individual to document what they're doing and providing that as context for an agent is incredibly usul. Whether or not that individual will be motivated to help.
Someone might lose their job.
Like, because if it was simple, you could have done it with existing automation technologies. We're usually attacking the things that are not simple to automate, where there's a lot of variability in the business process.
Yeah, that makes me think, like, what's coming up in terms of standardization in the Gen AI space? I know there's like MCP protocol, model context protocol, but are we starting to get to the point that if we're doing automation and we're seeking reliability, it seems to me that at some point we'll approach something around standardization.
Yeah, and I think there are some common building blocks that we're working with today, and I think the combination of agents plus RAG plus retrieval augmented generation plus MCP, those three things together can get you so far now. And we just think about how new they are. You know, at the beginning of this year, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and so we've got these three building blocks, and together that's incredibly powerful and it can do so much. But what's the next one? Is it like the A2A, like agent to agent protocol, so that instead of a single agent, you can have like swarms of them? Is it the orchestration? Is it the routing? Like, I suppose that's the same as orchestration, but I would love to imagine a future where like a task sort of emerges from a team, and an agent takes care of routing it to the next agent. And then there's another triage of like, what's the next right thing to do? And at any point you can sort of drop out of the agentic process. You can go and get a human's help. But wouldn't it be great if there was like this mesh of like subject matter expert, like agent sort of applications that could route their own work. I think that would be awesome. Not impossible today, but I just don't think people are looking at these things at that scale. It's very siloed right now.
So now that you are possibly the world's leading AI marketer, it seems like like what?
Oh, no! Don't give me that title. That's terrible.
So what are, like, how do you account for the rise of MCP? Like, it's not even a year old, and like, you know, there are many specs out there, and you can compare it even to A, which is sort of like, I don't know what's going on over there, right? Like, I mean, that's the wrong way of putting it. Just like, someone needs to like push that one up the hill or something. But like, model context protocol, big deal. Like, and is there some secret cabal of marketing and DevRel that I didn't see happen? It just seems to have happened.
No, I think it was a pain and an audience. I think that was the magic combination. Because there's no magic to MCP. It's just a nice idea. But I think the audience was there. Whereas I think if you were innovating in that space and you had no audience, like it was from Anthropic, wasn't it? And so it was like, okay, the audience is there. People are paying attention to what you say.
Right.
We're not talking about in their thousands. We're talking about in their millions. People are paying attention. And it was a pain, you know. The agent stack that I work on at Futuria, it predates MCP, and so every single tool is custom. And so the way you use every tool is very bespoke to our platform. And so, yay me, I don't have much transferable knowledge, but it was built for our use cases, and it's reliable. And so I'm like, great, like it works. I'm fine with it. But yeah, I think now a little bit of that custom development that everyone was doing with agents before has been addressed, and that was a pain point for the AI builders.
So it was just sort of like it came out at exactly the right time. And I mean, tell me if this adds up. I also think maybe product management wise, they released something that was incomplete, right? Like, and which is a big deal for something like that. Like, they basically released a unsecure thing.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas like if you had like an enterprise mindset, you would be like, oof, we're going to wait till the next annual conference, right? Like we got to put that in there or it's going to be terrible. So it seems like that was a clever thing to do. And then, like you're saying, it was just the right time. Now, also,
I mean, the pace is absolutely crazy, though.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's November,
pace
right?
Is crazy, and I think that that's shifting how we think about building companies. You know, you hear about Cursor and Lovable, and you know they've come from nowhere to be some of the fastest growing companies in the world, and their products are genuinely awesome as well. And they weren't on day one, but they were out there in the world. And so I think you know, if you can reflect on it on a lot of ways, but I reflect on it as like how to build a business, like in like a very very highly global market. It's like it's anyone's game. Anyone in the world can access your product. This isn't like a sort of soft launch era. This is a go big or go home era, isn't it?
Do you think these AI companies are operating with like a lean startup approach, or are they doing something different?
They must be because they all seem very, very responsive to their users. And I think that's the main thing. I think if you are going into like building an AI company today and you've got a very, very rigid roadmap and you've got a solid idea of what you want your product to be, then you'll miss opportunities. And I think one of the best things that we've seen these companies do is respond and do so quickly. And of course, the speed at which you can respond is accelerated by the AI tools that they have in their back pocket. And sometimes they're building the tools that they use themselves. And it's like, and it is showing us a different way forwards for growth, isn't it? I find it fascinating.
And do you like you mentioned that, Anthropic has an audience right there. I don't know, top however many like people in this space. And do you think like companies need to have like an engineering blog? Like, because they publish a lot on like, here's what we found out. And like, it might violate your code of conduct sometimes, the blog that they have. And I don't think
there's two schools here because, like I said, I can't always talk about some of the projects that I work on because of the fear that like the intellectual property will become just like common domain knowledge and they'll lose that tiny bit of competitive advantage that they have today. But I think the flip side is also true. It's that, okay, lots of people are looking at solving this problem right now, probably, like you can't assume you're the only person focused on it. And so by talking about how you're solving the problem, you build credibility and you build audience, which is a good thing for when those people actually are interested in using or buying what you're building. But I do know people who are at both the ends of the spectrum, and I don't know what the right answer is. Like it's it really depends on the market you're going for. I think if you're building SaaS and you're doing like a product-led growth thing, then the openness is your advantage. If you're a highly secure enterprise startup, then you've got a small pool of customers and you've already got their CEO on speed dial.
I mean, I guess like the way you changed what I was thinking with that last comment, but it's almost like the closer you are to selling something to builders, maybe the more you should publicly talk about it, because you're selling them like tools that work well. And, people love to say developers hate marketing, to which I always think everyone hates marketing. What they like is good marketing, right? Like,
nobody wants to feel like they're being sold to or pitched at.
Exactly, right? Like whether you're a developer or not. But so one of the things would be like, if you probably are really into aligning with your tool builders, like whoever you're buying tools from, you're all into whatever they think. I mean, vice versa, right? But you have similar thoughts. And so it seems like an engineering blog as a form of community management or marketing, but don't tell anyone, it is probably good for the most part. But then, I mean, I guess if you're relying on some trade secrets for something, I don't know. I just wonder if that's actually if that's actually defensible, because there's another issue where like the longer you keep a secret, the less money you're going to make off of it. Right. I mean, if you keep a secret infinitely and no one knows about it, you can't sell it. Right. So eventually you've got to like release it. But
I mean, you can look at like engineering blog is one thing, like sharing what you learn, I think is really important. The extreme side of that is like open sourcing your software, isn't it? And I know companies who've been very successful through open sourcing their software and sharing it with the world. And I also know some that failed to build a sustainable business off the back of it as well. So it's an interesting one to navigate, because I do think that visibility is super important. But it's how much value you can, because you can open source a project and it's really incredibly successful, but if it doesn't turn into a business, then that project it becomes redundant and it's not supported in the way that it needs to be, and it's just another abandoned open source thing, which no one wants to buy into. So I do think that sustainable businesses built openly is great, but it's a tricky road to navigate in terms of how much you give away.
My perception in this space, and maybe you two have seen more than I do. I don't always look as much as maybe you would think, but it seems like OpenAI and Anthropic are on opposite ends of the spectrum of this. Like, I think Anthropic shares all of their system prompts somewhere in GitHub, and you can just go look them up. Whereas like OpenAI shares nothing, right? Like they don't even have an RSS feed for their updates feed, which is already 2 months out of date for whenever you download something. It's like ridiculous. And so like, it seems like maybe there's a case study going on of like, is being secret like better, or like, and maybe it's not better, but like what type of organization should have a quote unquote engineering blog versus other ones? I guess Apple and Microsoft, oddly enough, Microsoft are a good
yeah, they are
dichotomy in that regard.
I have a question about relating to using Gen AI to build, like as software building tools. And I'm thinking about using like the construction in like physical home building construction industry has a saying, fast, cheap, good, pick any two. Do you think that applies with Gen AI? You can have fast or good or cheap, but any two of those three things, but not all three.
I mean, I think there are so many interesting new challenges that using AI coding tools brings to our world. I love it. Like, so I sit with my boyfriend in the kitchen and we sort of like vibe new products together, and I'm like a bit of this and a bit of that. I put my little product hat back on again for a while. And it's fantastically fast. It's amazing. It's so good. Like we could get like a new product built in an afternoon if I've got a good idea. I've got no shortage of ideas. Not all of them are good.
So you're saying we can have
I think the speed is fantastic because it allows you to test a lot more than you could. And I think in terms of validating ideas and hypotheses, it's great. I think one of the challenges is if you're working on a service that's already in production and is serving a lot of customers and users, then you have to obviously consider reliability and security. And you're probably not the only person supporting that service in production. You're probably like one of a team and you're on an on-call rotation. And then I think we need to work back from service ownership, like who owns this service into production. So the AI may have written the code, but who owns the service? And we've got a huge gap now because like sometimes like, you know, we call it vibe code or whatever, but sometimes like the streams of software that come out of Cursor, the author, the human who's driving that process hasn't even read them. And so then when that code is running in production and it's not just you, the human who was originally in the loop, but a team of people who have to own that service, I think that presents a lot more, that presents a new set of challenges, but not a lot more challenges, because sharing knowledge across teams has always been a challenge, but it's compounding because of the speed at which we can produce code now.
And so the good is it might work, but it might not be good. Like the good needs to be verified.
Yes, you were talking about the balance. Yes.
Yeah,
so, yes.
Fast, cheap, and good. Yeah.
It's fast and cheap, and that's what you want when you're validating ideas. But maybe the fast is sort of negated by the fact that it has to be good in certain scenarios. And I know that, you know, we talk about it as like the trust gap or the validation gap, and it's a challenge right now in that, like, as an engineer, do you choose to read every single line of code that comes out, even if the tests are passing and it works? Do you find other ways to catch like those subtle errors, or do you just hope, like, just YOLO it into production and hope for the best? I was chatting about this on another podcast earlier this week, and it was we were talking about actually some of the companies that have maybe adopted more mature practices around blue-green deployments and are really mature in their CI/CD processes, and it's all very highly automated. Perhaps those teams are going to be able to deliver faster with AI because the safety nets are in place for you to increase the speed. But I do still think that there's potentially risk and gaps that we need to address. No team is perfect in their coverage, are they?
So, let's say you're sitting in the kitchen with your boyfriend, as you say, and you got it open, and I'm always told, recently I'm told that like rail in the UK is awful, and I've only ridden on it a few times. Seems fine to me, but also I'm from Texas, so what do I know about trains?
Yeah.
Right? Like compared to back home, anyone's trains are great. So like you're sitting in the kitchen, like how, and you're like, we're going to solve this problem once and for all. Like, what are you going to do with the AI, and what is it going to do for you to solve this problem?
Well, solve the rail problem.
Yeah. Like if everyone,
honestly, I feel like I should like drag Stu in here because he loves playing with trains.
Yeah. Like every local, every local I talk to in the UK is just like, once I get off this rail, my kidneys are wrecked. It's so expensive. Like they're on and on and on, and so everyone knows about it. And I'm sure people have tried to solve it. So let's say that like Whitney's little stupid buddy in her pocket, you're going to bring it out, and like it's not so much what it's going to tell you, but how are you going to use it to solve this problem?
I mean, the real example that we have is we have a custom dashboard in our kitchen. So we've got a bus that comes through our village, takes us into town, takes us to the pub. We've got a custom dashboard in our kitchen that tells us if a bus is delayed or cancelled, so that we don't go and sit at the bus stop for too long. So perhaps that's the sort of like level of accessibility of technology now, is that anyone can kind of vibe code their own personal tools. It's like, I don't care about all of the bus data in the land. I care about the bus data for the bus stop that is next to my house that's going to take me to the pub. And I think
maybe just like better customer experience.
Very highly personalized applications are so much more accessible now.
Right. Maybe that is a way to paper over
is everyone's problem, but it helps me.
Yeah. I mean, it could be the case that like if the users of a system are like 10% happier, you don't have to fix the system. I mean, so to speak, right? Like, and you can do that at the edges as far as interfaces for it. I don't know.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Well, I was chatting with some colleagues the other day in the pub actually about the railway scheduling system and how they used to work on it on a mainframe. And no one knew the logic and how it worked, but it did work. And so it was one of those things where no one dared touch it. Another use case for AI is I've seen folks who used to work with us at Pivotal go and like tackle mainframe modernization with using AI to kind of understand the logic of these mainframe systems, but that's a side quest.
We talked a lot about AI in our personal lives, like how now this bus dashboard, but like back at the beginning, we talked about recipes and I forget now. But the question is AI 100% good? Is there a downside to weaving AI into our lives the way we have? And if so, what is it? What are you afraid of?
I think there's. I will find the URL and send it to you. But there's a fantastic paper that's called something like gradual disempowerment, where it's a reflection on not just as individuals delegating certain tasks to tools and technology, but as a society delegating more and more decision making and control. And I think it's incredibly insightful because it's not an apocalyptic sort of view of a super intelligent AI taking over the world. It's a slow creep of disempowerment. It is the tools making decisions for us, which are at first incredibly helpful, save us time. We can't live without them. And we gradually become dependent on the tools and technology. And then we are vulnerable then to the people who own and build that technology. But you can you can see some examples of this today. So, you know, there's hedge funds and stuff like that who do trading using algorithms and machine learning and AI on the stock market at a much faster pace than a human ever could.
Mm-hmm.
If we allow our entire global financial system to be run by algorithms, what are the potential unintended consequences of this? Humans can no longer participate in those processes, and is that a good thing? And I think the removal of human participation won't happen overnight, but it's a gradual thing.
Also, there's like your use case where you're using AI to help you build a travel itinerary. That's awesome. It makes a lot of sense. But once upon a time, and not that long ago, we were doing our own research to figure out what was cool. We're doing our own math to figure out how much time in a day and how to make it all fit and all the puzzle pieces. And in doing so, we're engaging in our own like complex thinking. And we're doing our own deep thoughts. And if we just outsource that to AI, are we replacing it with other deep thoughts? Or are we just forgetting how to think deeply about things? Will young kids even ever know how to think that deeply about anything?
I do agree. I think it's a tremendous leveling force in that everyone's got access to a lot of information. And you know, talk about writing as a skill. Like everyone's got the ability to write to a certain level because AI can generate it for you and it can help you improve. And it will be fascinating to see whether or not that stunts the progression of the people who would have been on a path to excel at that skill. Do we all coalesce at a certain level, which is like the AI enabled level, or do some people still rise above it? And that I don't think we know what the answer is yet, but yes, I think it's certainly going to change education, and you know, and what sort of entry level jobs look like, and what the expectations of each person is like. I'm sat here going like, I love learning new stuff, and like, I've never done it before, but I do an okay job because I use my AI guide to help me. And it's that's every job then. So how do we all differentiate ourselves in a job market when anyone can maybe do anything?
But then also there's like using my AI guide to help me. There's a lot of my own hard-earned knowledge, like slow-earned, I'll say, knowledge that I'm bringing to the AI guide that's helping me correct AI when it's wrong, or enhance and give all the context to what AI is saying. Like what happens to a entry-level person who doesn't have the knowledge to put on top of whatever AI is giving them?
Well, that's true.
How do you navigate that?
Like the way everyone learns differently. Everyone learns differently, don't they? I learn by doing. It's I'm no good at learning through reading or like watching things on YouTube or anything like that. I learn by doing. And so I am more likely to throw myself into an unfamiliar situation because that's how I have I have figured it out so far. But you know, there's been mentors like throughout my career who've helped me to make that successful. But everyone's different, and I think maybe everyone's learning style is different, and learning with an AI guide might not be the learning style of a lot of people.
Or maybe you've hit on the idea of mentorship and humans helping other humans and community.
There's
being an important part.
For that.
Well, speaking of things there's no substitutes for, you've listened to another episode of Software Defined Interviews with our great guests here. But before we wrap up, why don't you tell everyone again about the AI for the Rest of Us conference? When is it? What's going on? So this is for the listeners who are based in London primarily. So apologies to anyone else. So we have our 2-day conference happening in October in central London. It's the 15th and 16th. So on day one, after the keynotes, we have 2 tracks. We have a real world like AI stories track, and then we have the developer experience track. So then we'll be really getting into the tools and techniques that can help teams be successful with AI in the software development lifecycle. The next day, after the keynotes, again, the theme slightly changes.
And so what we're going to be doing on the main stage is we're going to be talking about how we navigate this change that's happening to all of us all at once, just as humans, whether it be in our personal life or our work lives. And then in the technical track, we're going to be tackling AI engineering. And so, Whitney, you're speaking in the developer experience track, aren't you?
I am,
Coté,
yes.
you're in the real world stories track. And so I'm super excited about both of your talks. I won't schedule them at the same time. That would be cruel. And yeah, so anyone listening who wants to come on down to the conference in London, there is a discount code available for listeners. It is SDI20. That will get you 20% off the ticket price.
I always wonder, is there an SDI 25 if I want to bump it up a little bit?
One of those things that tries all of the codes. There isn't. But if you ask me very nicely, maybe I'll make one. Actually, I probably should take this opportunity to plug our scholarship program as well. So if the ticket price is unattainable for you, maybe you're between jobs, maybe you come from a historically underrepresented group in technology, maybe you're a carer, or maybe you're just underemployed at the moment and you can't justify it. We do have means to support folks like you. So if you go onto the ticketing website, there is an application form for our scholarship program. And I would love to see you there as well. So don't be put off by the ticket price. We want to be as inclusive as possible. The ticket price is there for the folks who are coming as part of their jobs and will be funded by their employers. But we do want to welcome as many people as possible.
And then how about yourself? If someone wants to check out what's going on with the world's leading AI marketeer, where you have a page on the World Wide Web, a homepage or anything like that?
No, I use LinkedIn primarily at the moment. I'm on Blue Sky occasionally. My name is Hannah Foxwell. There aren't many of us in the world, so you'll stumble upon me if you look for me. But I'm mostly active on LinkedIn at the moment.
Well, great. Well, if you want to get links to those things, and if you didn't catch the code, you can go to softwaredefinedinterviews.com/109. Also, you can subscribe to stuff and join our Slack channel there to talk about stuff. We had, not in in the other podcast, we had lots of discussion in the Slack about kolaches. And we didn't bring, this is on my list to bring up. We don't have time, but, we also had a little bit of talk with an Australian about what pudding is. And that gets very confusing after a while. So,
am I going to be disappointed?
No. I think I've been discussing the phenomena of what pudding is in the UK for maybe 20 years now, starting with James Governor. And I think we had the standard conversation. Everyone, you got three parts, even though I said we don't have time. You got American pudding, which we all know about. It's just like sweet, viscousy stuff that looks like Elmer's glue that you eat. And then you have pudding as in, if you don't eat your peas, you can't get your pudding, just a word for dessert. So far, so good. And then you've got Yorkshire pudding, and you're like, now I'm totally confused. I don't know what's going on. But,
it's a bit of an anomaly, the Yorkshire pudding. A good one, though.
Yes. Well, anyways, there was a little thread on that. You could get involved, dear listeners. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.